central septoplasty. Without wasting time, as the time is short, I will go into that. So I think congenital uterine anomalies are more common than generally recognized by many practitioners, and prevalence varies with different studies. But if you look into the infertile patients, 3% of the infertile patient, most of the studies tell, and 5 to 10% in repeated miscarriages. And if you look more is septate or bicornate. And why it is important, I think all know it is because of spontaneous abortion, preterm, premature delivery, infertility, and cervical incompetence. Also, during delivery and other complications also can be there. I'm not going to the origin because of paramesonephric duct theory, that I'm not going to that. But initially we were following this classification, IFS of 1988. This is what the initial classification, and these are the pictures of that. But now most accepted is CONUTA classification, that is congenital uterine anomaly classification by the ESHRE and European Society for Gynec Endoscopy. So what you have to see, note, it is a simple one where it is U0 if it is a normal uterus, U1 if it is a T-shaped or infantile type, U2 if it is a septum, and that U2 if the internal indentation is more than 50% of the uterine wall thickness, or external condor straight or with the indentation less than 50%. But if the indentation is more than 50%, you can see here, it is the U3. And if it is U3B, width of the fundus indentation, if the middle is more than 150 of the uterine wall thickness. So, and the last one is bicorporeal septate about the, in the U3, there is a combination of the bicornate with a thickness of the septum particles, and then is the U4 hemiuterus and a plastic uterus. And then this is a simpler way of same thing to follow. And if the cervix is normal, it is C0, and if the vagina is normal, it's V0. So, and if it is a double normal cervix is C2. Like that, we have to classify the cervix and the vaginal lesions, and we have to name as U how much, C how much, and U2, C0, V0 is the simple septum, whether it is partial or complete. So that is the simple way. This is the latest which published by the SG group in 2013. So coming to the diagnosis, we can diagnose by HSG, laparoscopy, and what we are concerned today is that because of hysteroscopies, we can clearly tell that, and sometimes we may have to combine with laparoscopy also. Septate is, this is by HSG. Excuse me. Okay, this is the septate by the by the hysteroscopic appearance. Somehow, hello. Okay, this is the picture of a carbon dioxide appearance of a septate. You can see that something is happening. My computer is moving. Picture is not moving. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Please continue, sir.
Okay.
Please continue.
Something is happening. It is it's not moving. And this is just for completion sake put. Nowadays, people not do much of carbon dioxide because we cannot do the treatment part along with that. Show a laparoscopic picture where the fundus will be usually broad, and septate uterus we can diagnose by the 3D ultrasound, also by MRI. But if you have a good 2D ultrasound, that is enough for the diagnosis. This is to just tell the difference between septate and bicornate uterus. And in the central septum, you can see it can be partial or complete. And depending on the cervix involvement, we can differentiate, as we told in the initial CONUTA classification. And bicornate, we have to differentiate between bicornate. In doubtful cases, we have to see combine with laparoscopy to see that. And recurrent pregnancy loss in septate uterus is basically because of poor blood supply, poorly developed endometrium, and inability to expand, and abnormal uterine contraction. So hysteroscopic septal resection can be considered for nulli gravida woman diagnosed to have uterine septa, especially with long-standing infertility or age more than 35, planning for ART procedure. And if you look the history, 1974 hysteroscopic resection of the uterine septum was first described by Edstone in 1974. And this is the picture of hysteroscopic septal resection using the routine Collins electrode using the resectoscope. But when we use the resectoscope, we have to always dilate the cervix up to at least 7 millimeters. Some resectoscope are even 8 millimeter. That is one thing we have to see. But now as Rohan told, this is the resectoscope, which we have to dilate up to 7 with the loop or the other Collins electrode. But what I use is just different from the what just now Rohan was showing is a integrated system with together with the inner and outer sheet with continuous flow. Water comes from inside and goes through separate channels, and this is 4 millimeter. The advantage is that the instrument can be introduced straight without bending, or we can have the Bertocci model, Stores model, where you have a separate scope, but the instrument channel is slightly angulated, but the vision is better with Bertocci. But this is a Wolf model. Both are good. I am comfortable with this, but even the vision is slightly less. Whatever instruments we can pass through it, but the channel is separate. Inflow and outflow channel is separate. So whenever we introduce any instruments, either the cannulation or the septal resection or scissors, the vision is not much in the but otherwise we have to increase the pressure to get proper distension inside the uterine cavity. This is the monopolar electrode what we use with the same integrated system. It has got 2 type of electrodes of monopolar. Only thing we have to change into glycine. We can.
Sorry to interrupt you, sir. 1 minute left.
No, but I was not. It was not working in between, so I need few more minutes.
So already added that time in between, sir. We had paused it.
So hysteroscopic septal resection. This is with the same this thing hysteroscope with the integrated system. What you can see, just like Rohan was telling. And smaller septum we can use as scissors. No need to go for a electrical source for that. And energy source monopolar, or we can use we have to use glycine. We have to be careful about fluid overload, or bipolar, where we can use saline. All sorts of electrodes are available. With that, only thing you need a energy source. We have to have a proper distension using better with Histromat, or people have tried with fluoroscopic guidance. But this is the one slide I have to tell. This is the one recent data came in 2020 from the Bertocci group from Bari. Initially, the concept of septum was as a I. Now it is an inverted H. It is. So we have to see as a whole of a septum. We have to remove both the ends separately and then cut the septum. And we have to take the anterior and posterior loop also. Or we can cut the anterior and posterior and cut the central part. So we have to consider the septum as a whole. This is a new concept which has been advocated by Bertocci Bari group. So this is the one we have to see, so that the inner space is more and better is there. Whatever be the hysteroscopy, the success rate after hysteroscopy, the pregnancy rate, live birth in unexplained and previous miscarriage rate are good. And Cochrane data tells there is no randomized controlled trials with that. But whatever if you see suspecting septum, we must make sure it is septum only, or not the either it can be Robert uterus where it is septum is totally fused, or whether it is uniconate as like this by combining with the laparoscopy, or we have to make sure it is not a false strike. This is one case presented with a intrauterine adhesolysis, but when the patient came, we could see a clear uterine cavity in the scan. So when we did the
time's up.
Yes, just 10 seconds, and we have to make sure it is not a false track, giving and mimicking the appearance as a septum, or that we have to identify the ostium before cutting the septum. To conclude, hysteroscopic central septum for women with history of recurrent abortions, preterm deliveries, and women with infertility is safe and effective method of choice for improving the obstetric outcome. Thank you for patient hearing.